The NSW
Jamaica.
President Donald Trump's
waste reduction.
Marcus Appleby.
Good day, I'm Shane Masters, and welcome to News Rewind, Jennings look at the top stories of the week that was. Repugnant and high-handed is how the opposition have described the government's latest response to public sector workers. In a heated exchange in the House of Representatives on Wednesday, the government once again said it was not able to pay any more. More in this report from Michael Sharp.
The latest statement came from the Minister of State for Labour, Ruddy Spencer, former head of the BITU. The trade unionists, now set in a different role of employer, called for patience and tolerance from the teachers to give the government room to build the economy.
Despite the unique set of circumstances faced by the teachers, to accede to their request would at this time mean that similar consideration would have to be given to all public sector workers. This also forms part of the reason that a review of the negotiating schedule is necessary at this time. The current two-year cycle, with 1 year already gone, does not allow for the government to do all the things that are necessary to address the union's requests and claims.
He was not made to get off lightly, as a former Minister of Labour, Carus Cement, also tackled the minister both as government and a trade unionist.
Former President General of the BITU, who have always looked out for the interests of the workers, you have dropped the ball on this one. And I say to you as a brethren, what you are asking for and the way in which you have done it is what the opposition is against. Nothing is wrong to call your workers and say to your workers, we want to get our economic program going, and we ask you to come with us on board for a longer negotiating cycle. Nothing is wrong with that under special circumstances. But to come to the House and to announce and say as 4 years in the midst of negotiations, it is repugnant, it is high-handed, and it goes to the heart. It goes to the heart of the democratic process in this country. It goes to the heart of our democracy as it relates to collective bargaining.
He also charged that the government was trying to weaken the unions and is a bad example to the wider sector. The minister came to his own defense and was also personal.
I am frightened by the comment of a man who used to be my friend. Yes. Mr. Speaker, the record will reflect. The records will reflect that when the PNP was in power, the only man he could rely on was Ruddy Spencer of the BITU. One second. For him to come today, one second.
Order, please.
For him to come today to say to the House that the government is union busting, it is hypocritical and a farce. I'll let you know, because I will continue to teach you this trade.
Suggestions came from the opposition bench, with Fitz-Jackson stating what he said would be a better approach.
Mr. Minister, in a spirit of having cooperation with our public sector workers, would it be best that you settle the outstanding matters, even if you ask for a special interim arrangement with the 4-year cycle as a current for the now, and then go to the unions, all of them, and say, look, based on the planning and whatever that you want to do in the ministry, you are now seeking to change the cycle from 2 to 4 years. And then you will get a buy-in and then create more cohesiveness within the public service so that the country can go forward. So I just ask of the minister, Mr. Speaker, to yield to good judgment. Suspend the arbitrary imposition of the change in the cycle until you have completed the negotiation with the outstanding union, and then you engage them about the cycle. That's simply my question.
And after much talking and a quiet interjection by the Prime Minister, what was an area of concern was brought to light eventually.
The House, there are some business that the government needs to straighten out. Hence our asking for 4 years. At the expiration of 4 years, we might very well revert to 2 years. Yes. No, yes. You never asked it.
The opposition has called on government to return to the bargaining table with public sector workers and not pay in the absence of an agreement. In his maiden budget presentation in the House of Representatives, opposition spokesman on finance Mark Golding said the government stands in breach of international laws. Maricel Salmon has the details.
His remarks come against similar positions taken by trade union groups still in negotiations with the government. The Minister of Finance last week had indicated that this would be done and there was precedence for this. The opposition took the minister to task for his offer to the government minister, who in 2015 described a $1,000 increase as an insult.
The side man on the solid waste garbage truck earning $6,200 a week is being offered an increase of 5%, $310 a week. $310 a week. That's worse than insult. The JUTC driver earning $12,000 a week is being offered an increase of $600 a week. The lady who is an ancillary worker in a hospital or in a school earning $8,500 a week is being offered an increase of $425 a week. Mr. Speaker, where is the Shaw of 2015? I can't see him. I can't see him.
The opposition described the attempt by Mr. Shaw to give the impression that the workers were receiving large increases as disingenuous.
Mr. Speaker, but what is even more harsh was the suggestion that public sector workers have seen an average increase in their net pay of between 7% and 14% because of the 1.5. Now, Mr. Speaker, I ask you, is that not hypocrisy in the extreme? How can you say to public sector workers in February 2016 that they would benefit from $18,000 a month of more pay because of your 1.5, and then you rely on the 1.5 as your justification for denying the public sector workers a reasonable increase that will be ahead of projected inflation? How can that be? What's worse, Mr. Speaker, you have already taken it back from them in the over 30 billion of taxes, indirect taxes, that you impose to pay for this 1.5.
Mr. Golding also warned of the international implications and suggested that the move did not belong in our democracy, but in a totalitarian regime.
This decision to pay the retroactive without concluding an agreement with those categories of workers is a big disrespect to them and their union representatives. And it's also a violation of the International Labour Organization Convention number 98 of 1949, to which Jamaica is a signatory, and a violation of the Labour Relations Code that was approved in this Parliament in 1976. Mr. Speaker, the Right Honourable, Right Excellent, Alexander Bustamante, Hugh Lawson Shearer, Michael Joshua Manley, and Portia Lucretia Simpson Miller, as trade unionists and past prime ministers, would never condone this. Never.
He noted that the minister should not be wrong and strong.
The educational sector was dealt a severe blow for 3 days last week as scores of teachers stayed away from the classroom over the government's handling of wage negotiations. The details in this report.
Several students across the island were either sent home or left in empty classrooms after teachers refused to show up to work on Monday. Teachers decided to protest in anger about the unsettled wage negotiation with the government. They say the finance ministry is refusing to make a better offer. Some students were left roaming the campus in absence of supervision. Some parents were shocked when their children returned home due to a standby in school operations. One vendor, who says her grandchildren were sent home, shared her views on the strike and the implications it may have on those students, especially those set to do the GSAT examinations this month.
It's going to affect the kids because we have GSAT coming up. And the children, they have to learn. They have mock tests coming on Thursday and Friday.
Okay. So you think they only must be for one day?
Yeah. I think the one day could do everything, solve the problem.
Principal of the St. Elizabeth Technical High School outlined how the school has been affected by the shortage of teachers.
We're facing some challenges this morning. We have almost an entire student population. At last month we had more than 1,300 students present. But however, we have less than 10% of our teaching staff here today.
How will this affect school?
Well, it means that we won't have regular classes as scheduled. However, our students are still occupied. We have asked 6 form students to supervise individual classes while students work on their own.
The government has proposed a 6% increase for the 2017-2018 contract period. However, the teachers have rejected it. Finance Minister Audley Shaw announced on Sunday that teachers will not be given an increase as this would have serious repercussions and risk destroying the economy.
Meanwhile, Education Minister Senatorial Reid is considering an extension of the 2017-18 academic year. This comes against the growing concerns over the teachers' protest in rejecting the government's wage offer.
In the wake of public school teachers taking industrial action against the government's latest wage offer, one teacher, Jody Titus Maxwell, has decided to not join the unofficial strike. The teacher for 11 years, who has been working at the Glenmore High School in Clarendon for 6 months, expressed her understanding of the protest and support of her fellow teachers. She, however, noted that the timing is not right. With many students scheduled to do the GSAT examinations in March and the May-June CSEC examinations, there have been concerns about students completing their syllabus and their preparedness for their exams. Mrs. Maxwell highlighted the upcoming holiday, coupled with the strike, will hinder students from getting all the work they need to get done in such a short time. This has also caught the attention of the Education Minister, Senator Ruel Reid, who is considering to extend the academic year due to the chaos.
We're not the Easter term. We're not considering extension of the Easter term. We are considering some extension in the summer term. So that is something that I will announce officially in short order, but I want to put that on the table. But that is a consideration.
Due to the unrest in schools since Monday, the Labour Ministry held a meeting on Wednesday in a bid to end the protest action by teachers. The Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, and officials from the Education and Finance Ministries were in attendance. Teachers have been calling in sick since Monday in an effort to demand better compensation.
Director of Elections Arrett Fisher has resigned. His resignation comes ahead of a court ruling surrounding his tenure. The details again from Cody and Barrett.
Arrett Fisher had brought the Electoral Commission of Jamaica ECJ before the court seeking judicial review of the ECJ's decision not to renew his contract, which expired at the end of October 2017. Fisher was fighting to keep his job as head of the electoral office for at least another 6 years, despite the expiration of his 1-year contract on the grounds that he is entitled to 7 years in the post as set out in law. However, in a letter he issued to the staff on Wednesday, Fisher expressed that there was a growing level of political interference that has been affecting the electoral office of Jamaica. He further added that, quote, the EOJ as it exists today is a far cry from what existed 23 years ago when I joined, end quote. Mr. Fisher served the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, ECJ, for over 20 years, 9 of which was spent as Director of Elections. He joined the ECJ in 1995 as Assistant Director of Administration with overall responsibility for the strategic direction and management of the organization's support service departments. Shortly after, he acted as Director of Elections for 11 months and was soon after appointed Director of Elections on November 1, 2008.
The Denham Town Police on Wednesday morning made a major dent in the arsenal of the underworld when over 1,000 rounds of ammunition were seized in a cemetery. More in this report from Michael Sharp.
The police were on patrol shortly after 6 Wednesday morning when their tour of duty took them into the Calvary Cemetery in Kingston. While the men made good their escape on foot, the important deadly loot was left behind. Exactly 1,272 of them.
132 12-gauge cartridges. These are used in shotguns. Also recovered 339.38 millimeters cartridges, 599.44 cartridges, 1 holster, and 4 magazines.
And while we collectively contemplate the disaster that has been prevented and to who these men were and even the source of the ammunition, Inspector Marcia Blake had her own message for the criminals.
I want to tell them out there that we are here to do our work and we're going to do it well. And whatever you do out there, our eyes are on you. It doesn't matter how long you run for, you will be caught.
Calvary Cemetery, once renowned for the final resting place for the rich and the famous, is anything but. It needs maintenance. 4 months now since any maintenance has happened here. Therefore, it's a natural cover for the would-be criminals. Happily, it was not enough cover for these who dropped their bags and ran and left in a place where people have their final rest, bullets that can take lives. Michael Sharp, Frontline News.
We take a break. News Rewind will be right back with the top business stories.
The NSW
President Donald Trump's executive
production.
Welcome back to News Rewind. Now for the top business stories of the past week. Carus Cement Company is planning to more than double its gypsum and limestone quarries. The move is aimed at supplementing raw materials that are now described as hovering at critically low levels. The plan requires approval from the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA. Carus Cement spokeswoman Sophia Lowe-Pinnock says from a mining perspective, low levels of raw materials can equate to several years of supplies, even as much as 20 years. However, the cement producer is yet to comment on the size of the investment to be made in the expansion project and expected timeline for its execution. Its quarries are operated through subsidiary Jamaica Gypsum and Quarries Limited. And the opposition spokesman on finance, Mark Golding, is recommending that whenever Jamaica ceases to have an agreement with the International Monetary Fund, there should be the establishment of a body like EPOC to keep government on track. He was making his presentation in the budget debate on a Tuesday.
This will help to maintain the people's confidence and the confidence of local and international investors and observers in Jamaica's economic management. It will make permanent what has become an important national institution in ensuring that Jamaica never slips back into large deficits and mounting debt. It will continue to complement and enhance the fiscal responsibility framework that is already enshrined in our law. Mr. Speaker, our people have sacrificed too much for too long, and we must maintain the institutions that we have created that have shown that they are effective and have broad support across the society.
And that's your News Rewind for this week. I'm Shane Masters. Thanks for watching.